Hey guys, ShadowRock here to give you a quick rundown of what to expect at Capcom's E3 showcase in just 4 days from the time of this recording. I did talk at length about what to expect Mega Man wise during our last Mega News roundup, but since that video, Capcom has come out with a precise time and date, as well as 4 different games to expect at the showcase, which obviously don't include Mega Man. So this video, I'm just going to give my predictions on what's going to go down at this E3 showcase, and talk about Mega Man, because that's what we do here. First things first, what's the time and date? The Capcom E3 showcase is going to happen on Monday, June 14th at 2:30 p.m. Pacific. That translates to 4:30 Central for anyone who is planning to tune into my live reaction live streams. And yes, I am going to do live reactions for all the big ones like Xbox, Square Enix, Capcom, and Nintendo. But today we're just focusing on Capcom. The announcement tweet from Capcom USA reads as follows. Join us for the Capcom Showcase at E3 2021 for news on our latest games lineup, including The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Monster Hunter Rise, and Resident Evil Village. Now that games lineup there kinda raises a red flag, mainly because half of those games right there, they've already been out for quite a while. Monster Hunter Rise came out on the Nintendo Switch in March, and it just got a major update on May 27th that added a new ending, some new monsters, and all the other stuff you can expect. So I'm not sure what else they really have to talk about 2 weeks later, unless they have another big update already. Same type of deal with Resident Evil Village. It came out early May, and everybody's played through it already. We've already pretty much experienced everything that game has to offer. But if they do have something new for us at the show, it might be either a free update or a DLC story. Similar to how Resident Evil 7 had their own DLC stories to play through. And they even had a free one to play that featured Chris Redfield and his story of what happened after RE7. And I think that is a possibility of something they might do. Without getting into too much spoilers, at the end of RE Village, something happens between Chris and the BSAA, which was the organization Chris was working for that was supposed to be anti-bioweapons. But at the end of Village, it becomes clear that the BSAA is up to some shady stuff, and so they plot a course to the European headquarters of the BSAA. But we never get to see what exactly goes down there. So if anything, that's a story teaser if I ever seen one. So if anything, we may get some kind of updates that allows us to play through that section of the story. I actually got a question: if such a DLC did happen, would I play through it? Yeah, I would. I mean, I just did the whole blind run thing all throughout May. So if such an update is happening, I may as well follow through with it. But with that said, that's my prediction for RE Village. So let's move on to the other 2 games that they mentioned. Now these 2 games, The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles and Monster Hunter Stories 2, are coming out rather soon, launching in July in fact. So we are at a point with those games that they're coming out so soon that do you really need to talk about them at length at E3? Like I said, they just had that Monster Hunter Direct 2 weeks ago, where not only did they announce the Rise free update and DLC, but they did a whole big info blowout for Monster Hunter Stories 2. I mean, sure, they can show us a little bit more of the game, I guess, but it does feel like it's going to be more of a case of, hey, this game exists, you should probably get it. As for The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which I'm really hyped for by the way, the thing about that is, it's a collection. Granted, we never had these games come out west before because it had never been officially localized, although we did have a fan translation of the first game, and the second game's fan translation was in progress when the collection was announced. Anyway, again, I'm not sure what they could possibly announce in terms of Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We get a pretty in-depth look at all the features of the collection like dual audio, story mode, and all of that. The only thing I can think of is they might give us some footage of the second game in the series, because when they announced the collection, they showed mostly footage from the first game. So that does leave open room for them to give us an introduction of the second game But beyond that, it would just be rehashing information that's already been out there. After all, this is a collection of games that have been available in Japan for quite a number of years, which segues into my main point with this E3 showcase. The more you look at that lineup, the more it feels like Capcom is really just at E3 to say, hey, you see all these games? Well, they're out, or they will be soon. They exist. And I can't really blame them for doing that. Monster Hunter Rise and Resident Evil Village are their biggest games right now, doing really well in sales and making that big money. So sure, from a marketing perspective, it does make sense to talk about those games there during one of the biggest gaming events of the year when they'll have several eyes on them. And I will certainly not argue against Ace Attorney getting more exposure because god, that series needs more love. But in terms of new stuff, if this is all they got, yeah, this is going to be a pretty uneventful showcase. So then let's shoot for the stars. What kind of new stuff could Capcom show at their showcase or at E3 in general? Well, we got some of those answers already, because unfortunately Capcom was the victim of a ransomware leak, and many games in their schedule, at least at that time, were leaked to the public. Now keep in mind, it does not include everything. There's some games in development that we most likely don't know about. For example, we're missing that Moon Man game called Pragmata. That's not on the list. And we know that's slated for 2022. That's definitely an idea for something that could appear at the E3 showcase. It's been a little while since they've shown that game off. And the ransomware leak information may be outdated in general, as plans do change internally all the time. That being said, what is on the list looks like Capcom's heavy hitters for the next few years. We got names like Dragon's Dogma 2, Street Fighter 6, and Resident Evil 4 remake. Man, I don't know why they're remaking 4. It's fine as it is. But anyway, we're just talking about the ones coming out within the next couple of years, because if it's beyond 2022, very likely it's not going to show up at this E3. Dragon's Dogma 2, I think that could show up at E3. Not only did the ransomware leak out it, but there was a separate leak that actually gave us some screenshots and gameplay. But to my knowledge, there hasn't been any official trailers yet. So E3 does sound like the prime time to announce something like that. Street Fighter 6 on the other hand, I don't think it's happening because we're still getting Street Fighter 5 characters, and they would definitely want to get those characters out the door before announcing a new game. That would be just shooting them in the foot. Not to mention Street Fighter 6 has reportedly been in a bit of trouble. They had to restart it right before COVID hit because the game was not living up to Capcom's expectations. And around the time that rumor started up, previous Street Fighter producer and director Hideki Itsuno actually got let go. That says a lot, doesn't it? But it sucks that that happened. The conclusion is I don't think we're seeing Street Fighter 6. That leaves us at the last non-Mega Man game on the list then, which is Resident Evil Outrage. Yes, another RE game right after Village, but to be fair, it seems like this one is being made by an entirely different team. The rumor is Outrage is supposed to be basically Resident Evil Revelations 3, and it's supposed to star Rebecca Chambers from RE 0 and 1. It's also rumored to be a timed exclusive for the Nintendo Switch, and coming to other platforms later on. And do I think this game will show up at Capcom's E3 showcase? Possibly, but I think that's something that Nintendo's going to save for their own Nintendo Direct that's happening the next day. Since it is a timed Nintendo Switch exclusive, that would be an easy game for them to show off. So if it doesn't show up at the showcase itself, it might be at the Nintendo Direct, assuming it happens. Well, that then leaves us with Mega Man, doesn't it? As I talked about before, there was a ransomware leak of Rockman Taisen, or some people have translated it to be Mega Man Match. Is it a fighting game? Is it a Super Robot Wars type game? Is it a spin-off at all? Is it Mega Man X9 because Maverick Wars? Whatever the case, we really don't know what it could be. But here's what I had to say about that from the previous video. All we know is that it has a pretty dang sizable budget for a Mega Man game, and they're really shooting for the moon with a sales expectation of like 2 million units, which is more than any Mega Man game in its entire history has ever done. Oh, and it's slated for 2022, which means it's far enough out that I don't think we'll see it this year. Maybe at the end of this year, if anything, but I don't think it's going to be at E3. Capcom doesn't even really do Mega Man announcements at E3. As for collections, that's another thing where if they announce a collection during the E3 show, it's going to get buried underneath all the other big games being announced at that time. So I really do think a collection would be announced outside of E3. The only sign right now pointing towards a collection comes from the ransomware leak once again, where it was revealed that the source code for the Misadventures of Tron Bonne was not only out in the open rather than being archived, but it was in the active state, implying that Capcom is working on it. Also implying that they may be working on a Mega Man Legends Legacy collection rather than a Battle Network one. Other than that, it's hard to say, but I do think we might not see a collection until like 2022. Especially if we're talking about the same team that worked on Mega Man X Legacy Collection and Mega Man 0 and ZX Legacy Collection. There was about a 1.5 year gap between X Legacy Collection coming out and 0ZX being announced. Then again, it is about a 1.5 year since 0ZX right now, so anything can happen. Whether that's before E3 or after E3, but I don't think it's going to be at the show once again. So beyond Rockman Taisen and that Misadventures of Tron Bonne source code shenanigans, what else is there on the horizon? Well, this year is Mega Man Battle Network's 20th anniversary, which means a Battle Network collection is hotly anticipated among fans. Will it happen at E3? Probably not. Like I just said, collections aren't really announced at the E3 show. It would be either before or after, if at all. The only reason the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is showing up at the Capcom showcase at all is because it was already announced. But as for Battle Network's 20th anniversary, there was that Battle Network mobile gacha game that was rumored, but we have no idea what happened to that one. It was supposed to coincide with some of the EXE 20th events from last year, but obviously it didn't happen, and I think COVID definitely affected that game, if it is still happening. Meanwhile, when the 20th anniversary did come, we had a statement from Uchi-san from Rockman E3 that reads as follows. If the world hadn't been in this situation, if the world hadn't been in such a state, I might have had other plans to announce, but for now, I think it's time to be patient. Of course, washing hands, gargling, and social distancing are important too. It's always Rockman who beats the virus after all. And that's pretty much Uchi-san's way of saying, yes, they do have plans for Rockman EXE's 20th anniversary, but it's going to have to wait because of COVID. There's also been the situation with the Rockman EXE Kotobukiya kit. We haven't seen anything about that kit since it was announced, not even a full color version or anything. And the theory among fans right now is maybe that is being saved to be grouped together with other EXE 20th announcements at a later date. Who knows, honestly. So that's where we stand with the EXE series. I know fans are absolutely stoked for the anniversary, and everybody wants a collection, there's no doubt about that, and I know Capcom knows that as well. I just think COVID really hit their plans hard. Hopefully we do see something relatively soon, but as for my guesses, I don't think we're going to see another collection until 2022. That's my prediction. And like we covered earlier in the video, that Legends Legacy collection may even happen first, since there has been evidence that they were tinkering around with Misadventures of Tron Bonne's source code. Now there's a couple more things that we can consider, mostly Rockman X DiVE related. Will we see the Rockman X DiVE global announcement at E3? Nah, probably not. They don't really do mobile game announcements at E3, that's definitely going to happen on their own terms if it does happen. Same thing with the Steam port, that's probably going to be announced through the usual DiVE channels if and when that happens. There has been a curious thing, however, pointed out by our buddy Protodude. Capcom of USA had recently trademarked the Rockman brand, not Mega Man, Rockman, which could imply that Capcom does plan to release Rockman branded products in the West. Now I'm not gonna say Mega Man is dead, it's all Rockman now, no, but I think that trademark is there for the weird situations where they need to keep the Rockman name. Maybe they are going to import those Japanese only goods in the US. Or maybe it is for Rockman X DiVE if they do bring it global and they don't want to localize the name. Which would probably mean this global version wouldn't have a proper English localization, it would be whatever English they usually come up with in that game. Which is disappointing, but I guess we dealt with it for this long, so what the heck. We are getting ahead of ourselves though, that's just a theory. And yeah, that's pretty much what's on the horizon for the Mega Man series. Taisen, possibly a collection of some kind, whether that be Legends or Battle Network, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Whatever's going to happen with EXE 20th and the Rockman X DiVE Steam port. I know that many Mega Man fans right now are understandably concerned about the future of the series. Mega Man 11 did gangbusters sales wise, the collections did pretty well, although we didn't get any specific sales data for ZX. So yeah, what the heck, where's the games? Well, if you want my honest opinion, I think Taisen is supposed to be that next major game. I mean, presumably that is the big title that Tsuchiya was talking about ever since the end of 11's development, that was the next major game they were working on. And did you know there was a Mega Man title that was conceived before Mega Man 11? Tsuchiya was talking about this a while back, and apparently, according to one of the interviews, he still wanted to work on whatever this game could be, and that's why he didn't want to reveal any details about it. So I'm definitely all aboard on the idea that Taisen could be that game that Tsuchiya came up with before 11. Whatever the heck it could be, I have no idea. The only thing we know for sure is that it's slated for 2022, so it seems rather unlikely it's going to be announced at E3 this year. And by 2022, I do mean like mid to late 2022. If we did get an announcement this year, it would probably be at the end of this year. Mega Man 11 itself had a slightly less than 10-month cycle from announcement to release, so we could be looking at a similar time window there. I definitely don't think Mega Man needs a full year for marketing. Heck, Mega Man doesn't really get marketing in the first place. They could totally announce Taisen for the anniversary in December, or maybe early 2022, showcase something at E3, and then release it later that year. I personally feel like this year at E3, it feels too soon. And I'm going to say this now, I really hope I'm wrong about all of this. You have no idea how much I want to be wrong. I hope I am horrifically wrong about any Mega Man announcements at E3. I hope they do announce something, but I have to be realistic. I don't think it's gonna happen, guys. And that sucks. It sucks because everybody is so concerned about what's happening with the series. We're almost 3 years out from 11, and all we got in is a mobile game. A gacha mobile game at that. One that's pretty toxic at times, I won't lie to you. And then beyond that, you're like, huh, I wonder what else is coming out. And then you hear rumors like, oh, there's more mobile games coming? What's going on? So what I can say is, Capcom definitely needs to be more transparent about what's going on. An announcement would definitely be nice. And hopefully, Rockman Taisen blows our socks off. I hope it's awesome because, boy, this series needs it right now. At the very least, if it does have that much of a budget and they're expecting 2 million sales, it really does make me wonder what it could be. But again, I just hope it's good. Now, with that said, I don't necessarily mind that Taisen has taken like 2 or 3 years in development to come out. Definitely let them take their time with these games so they can be the best quality they can be. We definitely don't need another situation where a Mega Man game comes out every year and then everybody gets tired of it again and then we have another 8-year drought. We don't need that situation again. We really don't. You know, people don't like to hear it, but we really don't need another yearly release schedule for Mega Man. Unless they alternate between different series, right? For right now though, we just gotta take faith in the Capcom team that there is a future for Mega Man. They are working on it. It's just gonna take some time, especially with COVID hitting them pretty hard. I have to be realistic. I don't believe an announcement will happen at E3, but I hope I'm wrong. And beyond that, I just hope something comes out soon. The fans have been waiting, so let's see it. Guys, that's gonna do it for today's semi-podcast. Hope you didn't mind the rambling too much, but that's what you can expect at Capcom's E3 this year. I think it's mostly gonna be a recap of all the games from recently, but if we do get something new there and it's pretty dope, that's awesome. Well, we'll find out ourselves in just a few days on Monday, June 14th at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. There's also the Nintendo Direct to look forward to the next day. Either way, I'm going to be live reacting to it all, so let's see what happens together. Don't get your hopes up, keep expectations low, make sure to hype responsibly. Otherwise, I'll see you there. In the meantime, I want to thank you so much for watching. For all things Mega Man, stay tuned to ShadowRockZX. Another big thank you to all of our channel members, including GA class supporters Ray Stinger, Adrian Cauldron, Kaibaman41, Vince Crystals, Rose Maverick Saiyan, LML123, Rico Syndrome, and Austin Buford. You guys help us make videos like this happen, and we're very thankful for that. Until E3 everybody, rock on, and you have yourselves a great day or night.